Hola Leslie, ¿cómo estás? Te ves guapa.
Hola Nicole, ¿cómo estás?
Me encanta verte, amiga.
Igualmente, gracias. Estábamos muy separadas hace ratito.
Ay no, tenemos que vernos un día de estos.
Sí.
Hi everyone, welcome. Before we get started, we're going to have our interpreter introduce themselves and share some information around our interpretation services for today.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Entonces, antes de comenzar, vamos a dejar que la intérprete comparta un poco de direcciones de la interpretación que vamos a tener hoy. Hi everyone, hola a todos, soy Pau, I'm Pau, uso pronombres ella, I use they, them pronouns, y voy a ofrecer interpretación simultánea hoy. I'm going to be offering simultaneous interpretation today. Voy a dar unas instrucciones de cómo acceder a la función de interpretación por Zoom. I'm going to give some instructions on how to access the interpretation feature on Zoom. Primero que nada, soy parte de un colectivo antirracista transfeminista que se llama Colectivo Babilla. So I'm part of a language justice collective called Babilla Collective that is anti-racist and transfeminist. And I'm going to be providing interpretation for today's event y voy a ofrecer interpretación para el evento de hoy simultáneamente. En un momento van a ver una notificación en la derecha al fondo de la pantalla, que es un icono de un globo que dirá interpretación. Y de ahí pueden escoger a escuchar la interpretación en el canal de inglés o español, va a ser simultáneamente. So in a moment, you're going to see a notification of a globe icon on the bottom right hand of your corner, as you see in the images. And there you can choose to listen to the English or the Spanish interpretation simultaneously. Este evento va a ser una discusión en inglés e español y la interpretación va a ocurrir durante todo el evento a el lenguaje opuesto que se hable. So this event is going to be in English and in Spanish, and we're going to have simultaneous interpretation into the language that's not being spoken at all times. Un recordatorio que por favor hablen a un paso moderado, y si en algún momento están hablando muy rápido, le voy a dejar saber o en el chat o le voy a hacer esta seña para que hablen más despacio. So just a reminder to speak at a moderate pace at your capacity, and if at any moment you're speaking too quickly, I will either let you know on the chat or I will do this sign for you to slow down. I hope you have a wonderful event, and let me know if you have any questions or issues through the chat. Espero que tengan un buen evento y déjenme saber si tienen alguna pregunta o problema técnico por el chat. La interpretación comenzará ahora. Interpretation will begin now. Thank you. Gracias.
All right, I think interpretation is activated. Everyone should be able to listen or speak into that language you prefer. Before we get started into our conversation today, I do have some tough news to share with everyone today. Rosie, if you want to switch to the next slide. We did receive some tough news this morning that one of our community members did pass yesterday. It was actually taken from us very violently. We have Transgender Day of Remembrance coming up on Friday, and we've lost another community member. She was from Cuba, living in Miami, and was a volunteer and member of Ariana Center in Southern Florida with Ariana Lent. And so Ariana sent us this picture. And before we get started, I want to honor Uni and take a collective moment of silence for a minute in her memory. It's tough to begin our conversation this way. And I know that, our community often doesn't get moments of rest. And so we do have to carry on the work we do in UNI's honor and in honor of all of those that have been taken from us these years. So remember to give extra love and support to the Southern Florida community at Ariana Lent and Ariana Center during this time. Yeah, very grateful for everyone to join us today and continue our conversations for Week Against Zero's Transphobia. My name is Joaquin Carcaño. I'm a transgender Mexican-American man. I work for the Latino Commission on AIDS. I'm the Director of Community Organizing for the Latinos in the South program. I live in North Carolina. I'm from Texas, and I work throughout the South. So I'm especially excited to have some Southern family here on our panel today with Estrella. So I'm going to allow our incredible activists and panelists to introduce themselves. If you all want to share a little bit about yourself, your organization, and the work you do, and then we'll jump into some questions and conversation. Nicole, would you like to kick us off?
I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole. My pronoun is she and her. And I'm a community engagement coordinator for Trans Latinx Network right here in the Big Apple, New York City, my lover. And I started basically I became an activist when I came to the US when I was 16 in 1994. And there was not so many resources for transgender people and, and being undocumented and being Mexican, being a people of color is being challenging. But I think we came a long way. Thanks God for that. And I'm so sorry we lost another sister because we're just about to celebrate the door, and it's very sad. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Leslie, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Hola, muy buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Leslie Herrera, and I will be talking about what I'm doing right now in this moment and not what I've done in the past. I'm a member with Jocelyn Mendoza founding member of the first transgender co-op, and here in the US, the first one, and I'm also a volunteer of a food pantry, and I believe in real democracy, and my pronoun is her, she and her. And I'm very grateful that and happy that you have invited me to this panel. And I'm Mexican from North Mexico, in Morcillos.
Thank you, Leslie. Very excited to hear more about your work and resources and to have you join us today. Estrella, to round us out, very excited to have you with us, part of my Southern family. If you want to share a little bit about your work and yourself, I'll let you take the floor.
Hola a todos, ¿me escuchan?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hola, estoy teniendo problemas con la computadora.
I was having some issues with the computer, but hi, everyone. My name is Estrella Sanchez. I'm the executive director of Community Estrella, and I've also participated in multiple organizations as a volunteer at the local, national, and regional and international level. I'm also part of of a of of Latinas trans in Latin America and in Europe. Community Estrella fights for the rights of trans and gender nonconforming people in the state of Georgia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Estrella. And Jocelyn, happy you got to join us. We're just doing introductions right now. If you would like to share a little bit about yourself and your organization before we jump into some conversation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn. Sorry, I wasn't completely available, but I'm a founding member with Leslie Herrera. I'm also Mexican. I started getting involved in the movement because I've been discriminated against in the workplace, and we're founders of the first trans-led co-op in the state of New York, and the first in the country. And and we are providing jobs for all the LGBTQI community.
Wonderful. Thank you. Right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're very excited to hear more about your work and your organizations. You know, we had some prepared questions for our talk today, and thinking about the tough news we heard this morning. One of our questions is around trauma and around healing, which I know can be really difficult, especially in this moment. But for all of y'all who are leading, you know, trans-led organizations, which I think is really important and really key, um, our question for you all is, what does healing look like for our community, for the trans and gender nonconforming community? You know, there's so much trauma and violence that we're facing every day. How are people navigating healing right now? And anyone can jump in and answer, and then we'll continue. Yeah, Leslie, would you like to start?
Well, I think that I would start by saying that we're in a good path. I think that we are more united than ever, whether it be at the organizations and our community, our LGBTQ community, especially specifically trans and gender nonconforming. I think that we're in the right direction in order to lead lead the community. And I think that having a mutual support, all united, we could accomplish that goal of healing for all. More for the trans community, that we're the community that has been affected for a long time and taken advantage of.
And healing is going to take time. The only thing we can do as a community is come together, celebrate the ones that are not here with us anymore, and honor the ones that are still alive. And just come together and still advocating, creating awareness, and be out there and rally for all these brothers and sisters that are not here anymore to speak for us. That's what I will call healing. It's just coming together and just keep fighting.
Yes, definitely. Estrella, would you like to comment?
Hablar de sanación es muy importante.
Talking about healing is very important, but
Hacer nuestro propio esfuerzo a
making
veces
our
es
own
muy difícil
effort
porque
sometimes
somos
is
personas
really hard,
que
as
somos
my
personas que
comrades have
hemos
said, because we are people who have been
discriminadas en muchos
discriminated
lugares.
against in multiple
Pero
sectors.
después de
But
todo
after
esto, de todas las
after
necesidades
everything,
o las
and
barreras
all of the
que
barriers and all the
pasamos,
needs that we
so,
overcome
también
or we have,
nosotras
also
sabemos cómo sanar.
we know how to
No
heal
somos
ourselves.
el
we're
problema
not we're not the problem,
como muchas personas, como
as
muchas
a lot of people,
organizaciones
as a lot of
piensan, o como
organizations
muchos
think,
proyectos
or how many with
imponen
how a
ese
lot of
concepto.
projects feel.
Sí somos un problema, pero también nos sabemos
And we
organizar
so we're not a
y
problem, but we know
cuando
how to
nos sabemos
organize ourselves.
organizar,
And when we organize ourselves,
presentamos la solución.
we come up
Y
with the
entonces,
solutions.
eso
And
es lo que
so
deben de
that
considerar de
is what
nosotros, ¿no?
they should consider
Entre nosotras
about us, that we, even within ourselves, we find that healing, that education, and that empowerment.
Yes, beautifully said. Thank you all. Yeah, I think it's, it's easy to feel isolated. It's easy to feel like there's nothing but challenges ahead of us and challenges that we face. So it's really important to remember that we are a really powerful and beautiful community that has lots of wisdom and insight and answers, right? Like Estrella said, and you all are creating those answers. You all are creating those avenues for support. So thank you all for what you do. And remember that we need more than a week, we need more than a day, and we need to be heard. Our community has answers, um, and y'all are proof of that. And so thinking about the services and resources that you all either offer or that you've benefited from, can you all share a little bit more about the work y'all are doing, and what sort of support and healing are you all offering your community, either through yourself or through your organization?
Yeah, I've been working for Trans Latinx Network for about almost 3 years already. And, something that we're addressing right now is stigma and trauma. And what happens is that a lot of times we carry so much stigma, so much trauma for coming from different countries, coming from different backgrounds, and it's still happening. And what I've been doing these days, sorry, I got lost. Okay, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, you're great. You're great. Around resources and services that organizations are offering.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, basically right now, after the COVID-19, we always have programs in Trans Latinx networks, such as like peer support groups. We have a groups, support, educational class. We talk about so many different issues, from HIV all the education, all the way to awareness and violence based on gender. And we addressing these days, we're working really hard in addressing the mental health, mental health awareness. We're really very passionate about it these days, because after COVID-19, so many people, is being very depressed, feeling lonely, isolated, and those mental health issues need to be addressed, because I don't think a lot of people talks about it a lot. So we're trying to normalize it, talking about mental health awareness. And we do have a pantry today from 4 to 5. And we do have a like classes, leadership classes in Trans Latinx Network, where we are they being incented. Whoever comes to those classes get incented, such as MetroCard, and we do give them, MetroCard, some cash to take home, because whatever we get goes back to the community. And we've been encouraging a lot of clients to get HIV tests, and we're providing incentive. So we're really trying to get, working with so many clients. So it's been quite difficult these days because of COVID-19. So many places are closed. And for mental health, once again, it's more difficult because not so many people willing to deal with the undocumented trans people, or just undocumented cisgender people, because somehow we think to think of these people as invisibles, like because you're undocumented, you don't get depressed, you don't feel lonely, and that's BS. Excuse my language. We all get depressed, even people who may not have it, who's undocumented. The culture shock affects them so much, and we got a lot of people these days that they come from detention, and it's something that we working very passionate about it, because they part of this huge family that is Trans Latinx Network, and we bump into so many barriers when people just asking for for legal status. So for that, we also have a legal clinic once a month, and the client got to speak to a, a immigration advocate and see if they can deal with their cases. So we've been pretty, really, really busy these days. So, but I'll tell you later. I'm gonna let the next person go. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Creo que
Okay, I think that also in the co-op, in Mirror, during these times of pandemic, our main objective has been to empower the trans community and gender nonconforming. And what we are doing, what we did right now was stop our project because we know that with COVID, there's there's not a lot of things to do, and we're focusing in trying to find grants to study, and we want to make sure to train during this time. Yes, we feel depressed and isolated, but we help the people that the little bit of people that we can, in and we want to make them understand that it's a good time to educate and empower yourself for when everything is open, and when we go back to normality, quote unquote, you're prepared and you can find a job. And Jocelyn and I, we're giving 5 scholarships or grants to people, to folks who are trans and gender nonconforming, to study, to learn cosmetology. There's a school here in Queens that is certified by the system of education in New York City, and that is a way of healing, and and that's what we've been doing.
Yes, Jocelyn or Estrella, would you like to share more or comment?
Bueno, como
Well,
ya decíamos, ¿verdad? La
as
manera
we've already said,
de apoyar
the,
o la
the
manera
way to support
de aplicar esa
or to apply
justicia de sanación.
that
Así
healing
como
justice
también se dice que somos el
in
problema, también la solución, pues
in the way that people say
nosotros
that we're the
aquí
problem, we're also the
en Community
solution.
Estrella usamos
Here
diferentes
in Community Estrella, we
estrategias,
use different
realmente
strategies,
comunitarias,
very
de
much like a
entrenamientos
grassroots
basados en la
trainings
educación popular.
that are based on a
So,
popular
y
education.
con esto
And
hacemos
with that, we do
diferentes eventos
different events
relacionados,
related,
muy de base comunitaria,
very much like
como,
community grassroots based.
como yo recuerdo, ¿verdad? Que antes
And
nosotras
as I remember before,
nos
we
reuníamos
would meet
para las fiestas, para
for
criticar al final, para hacer
parties,
esto, para
to
tomar y así,
gossip, to drink,
y hacer
to
¿cómo no puedo decir? Alboroto, ¿no?
to
Cuando
make a
estábamos en
to
clases,
be to make a
pues
mess, to have a good time.
nosotras cambiamos
And
eso
so we changed
para
that
unir a las compañeras, para invitar a
to
las
unite the
compañeras a
comrades, to invite the
relacionarse.
comrades to come
Nosotras
to
aquí
the house. And here
en Community en Casa Estrella,
and here in Community in Casa Estrella,
no usamos el método
we don't use
tradicional
the traditional
de citas,
method
por
of
ejemplo,
appointments, for
de decir,
instance, to say,
como otras organizaciones
as other organizations
te preguntan
who ask
si,
you
que si hablas
if
inglés
you speak English
o que si tienes alguna cita.
or if you have an
Entonces, nosotros no
appointment.
tratamos de presionar a las compañeras
We
que
don't try
vienen.
to pressure the comrades that
Lo que
come.
nosotros hacemos es darle
What
la
we
bienvenida a
do
la
is
casa
welcome
y
them to the
obviamente
house.
nos percatamos después de
We
dos o
are aware
tres
that
visitas
after a few
la
visits,
compañera o el compañero
the comrade
presentan necesidades.
have
Entonces ahí es donde
specific
nosotros
needs,
pasamos
and that's
a una
when
fase que
we go to a stage that
después del alcance comunitario, pues
after
nosotras
outreach, the
hacemos
community
la
outreach, what we
referencia.
do is the
Pero
referral.
buscamos a organizaciones
We
en
look for
donde nos apoyan o
organizations
ayudan
that actually support this project the way that we need in the South, because in the South we don't have enough resources. One of the biggest barriers of the organizations is language justice, and not only because of the language. No, the language justice is also how how they talk about us, or they talk to us, to us trans folks, and we try to break those barriers. We try to the traditional methods of organizations or of companies, right? So we're more from the house, from like the ground and from the base. And this house is a traditional house. When we have agreements, it's about agreements, not punishments. And we try to understand the situation of what's actually happening with trans folks. And between ourselves, we try to find the solution. We have a coordinator, we have a board, and we have of the consultants, we have members C, and we have clients. So we have 4 different structures. And during this time, this pandemic time, we're always like trying to understand what's happening with everyone. So trying to get into any kind of conversation that's happening so people can hear our voice, so they know that we are present and we can show that we are capable of sit and be part of the table, right? Or part of the conversations.
Thank you, Estrella. Yes, you're definitely right. You know, we have the power within our community. We have the answers, and we're building it from the ground up. And you all are providing lots of proof of that. Jocelyn, I think you're with us. Did you want to comment or share?
I believe Jocelyn got disconnected. She was not feeling that well. She was going to be part of the panel from the beginning.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad we have Leslie as a representative from the co-op, so thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of what y'all mentioned was, you know, the challenge of combating stigma, right? You know, the impact of that upon our mental health, and also empowerment by leading these trans-led organizations and these initiatives, by building up these worker co-ops, by building these organizations in the South. We're also providing strategies for empowerment. So one of the questions we had was around the media. You know, how are people depicting us? You know, and that impacts a lot of how we're treated. So what are some of your all suggestions on how can the media better tell our story, you know, our struggles, our successes, our images? Estrella, you mentioned language justice. How are people talking about us? So how can we use the media to better share our stories and our successes?
I think we need to educate the media about using the right pronouns for all of us. Respect our pronouns, and and become normal to use it. Because a lot of times I feel they always, when something bad happened, they right away says, "Oh, that was a man dressed in woman's clothes," and I find it very offensive. It's offensive to me and to my brothers and sisters, because it's we're more than that. We're more than just a name. We're more than just a person. I mean, a person is way more than just genitalia. And I think the only way, I mean, I used to watch Post, and I think it's finally something that I got to leak. I mean, when I was young in New York City in 1994, and I got to see the ball culture, and it was amazing. A lot of people dancing and doing the boogie, that it was a little crazy, but I love it. And I think, I mean, things like that, to talk about transgender, is stories and experiences has to be only created by transgender people, has to be for us, by us, Otherwise, we're not gonna go anywhere. Because if you see movies like the Silent of the Lambs, is I mean, I mean, I feel that the character is portrayed as a person with mental issues, some psychopath that are just like it's not me, it's not who we are. So I think I mean, we need to educate the world about us through movies, through stories. Even if a lot of times I think we just see movies about movie stars and people who maybe they made a huge to scandals behaviors. But now all of us like scandals. A lot of my brothers and sisters right here, they activists, they community workers, they working at doing outreach. I mean, we do so much work. We are more than just those portraits of people out there living fabulous lives, because it's more than that. So I think we should create the next like channel for TV, for TGNC. Yeah, thank you.
Bueno, creo
Well, I think that the media and the social media don't do a well reference, don't reference us well, don't portray us well, specifically the LGBTQ community, but TGNC and even the gay community. The gay community doesn't portray us as with something as something positive, especially because if they portray us in a positive way, po- we know that positive doesn't really sell. So they always want to make us look like victims, like transgender people are are sex workers, and that o- and that queers and GNC folks aren't okay mentally, have mental health issues. So what I try to do in my environment, I try to I try to show them that this is how I am, that I'm productive, that I have a job, that I'm doing the work with the co-op. And I think that the community who's around me, who's a trans, I'm sorry, who's a cis community, sees me as something positive. And I think that's how we need to start, that transgender folks or GNC or gay folks or queer folks try to talk good, try to talk positively about each other, and that the community becomes more accessible, and maybe the different media and the social media will start understanding that we are people, normal people, because I don't f- I don't feel not normal. I don't focus on necessarily being transgender. I just try to be normal. I'm a woman, and if another person doesn't want to see me as a woman, that's not my problem. That's their problem.
En estos tiempos de la
In
pandemia,
these times of the
un
pandemic,
papel muy importante
we're
las redes
the
sociales,
social
medios de
media
comunicación,
and the media are playing a very
pero
important
lo
role.
que hemos
But
encontrado
what we've
durante
found
estas últimas
during
notas de transfeminicidio que ocurren no
during
solo
these
en
last
Estados Unidos, sino
occurrences
que
of
de manera
femicides, not only in the
muy
US but at
general,
the world
porque
level,
siempre te van a
is
identificar con tu género y
is
siempre
really
son
saddening
algo
and
diferente.
upsetting, because they are always going to
Eh,
associate you with the
no tenemos
gender you're assigned at
suficiente
birth,
apoyo.
and we don't have enough support.
Yo he batallado mucho
I've
incluso
fought a
con
lot
mi organización
even with
abierta
local
porque
organizations,
únicamente
um,
porque no
because
trabajan con esa justicia del lenguaje,
they don't work with that language justice.
periódicos o
Newspapers
publicaciones
and
o
different
medios
things that are published or even the media that supposedly know about the LGBT community in Atlanta and Georgia aren't inclusive. And if they only have one person who speaks English that supposedly is Latina, and they try to cover you with that person, and they say this person represents the entire community, and that's a lie. I don't want to mention trans artists who speak and defend the trans community, especially the trans community of color, but we're very smart and we have to review the message. Who's promoting it? Who's doing it? Sometimes it's different media or social organizations that are led by a cisgender person who are never going to understand the needs of the trans community. They don't take us out of like of being highlighted as being the problem, of being nosy. All we're worth is being sluts, being all we're good for is doing drag shows. And that's how they're prejudiced against us. So the media in Spanish, and of course here in the United States, don't include trans folks. They only usually include a homosexual or lesbian cis person, but they don't create visibility. And why? Because they're private companies, because they're conservative companies. And for that, we need to work with each other. Here in Georgia, there's multiple radio station, Latina radio station, and they have one comrade who is trans, but are they paying that comrade? Are they supporting this person? The really reason that they want them for is to make themselves famous, and so they can gain fame. And since we want to live in this country, and we want to live in the world, in the fantasy world of this, this country of one that is filled with wonderful things, and you accept it, right? But in reality, this is ridiculous. And it's that cisgender people or the different media don't include the resilience, the resistance, the work of trans folks. And so our trans comrades, if you are working in any of those companies, reflect, think, are they using you? You are capable of forming your own companies. You are capable of doing more to empower yourselves and be in the conversations with media, because we are diverse and we all have different talents. And if your talent is being in media, use that platform and make sure that you're respected within that platform, that media platform. So that's what I want to say. I'm very radical. I'm sorry. And that's all.
No, thank you, Estrella. I think we have to be honest, right? We have to tell the truth about what's happening and impacting our community in order to establish some change. You all talked about people who are telling our stories the same way you've established your own organizations or work for trans-led organizations. We have to be involved in media. We need to tell our own stories. Those need to be shaped by us. And that we can't just have one representation. We are a diverse community. We can't one trans person working at an organization is nowhere near sufficient. We talked about language justice. We can't have only one partner at an organization. We need broader collaborations. So thank you all for sharing all of that. So we talked a little bit about support, and I'm curious around what has been the process of gaining support for your work, for I know a couple of y'all are in New York City and Estrella working in the South specifically. What has that looked like? Being able to feel supported, and you talked about it a little bit already, but if you can expand on that some around gaining support, getting your work to be respected too.
Well, I gotta say that I was a sex worker and I'm very proud of it because I got paid for it because I did it so good. And of course, we all have to change and evolution happened to all of us. Just as much as my transition started when I was 17 years old, and it was no resources in New York City. It was mostly for gay, cisgender male, gay, cisgender, lesbians. And basically the transgender community was ignored. We didn't exist for so many other agencies. They just asked for signatures. And it was never resources for us, never places for us to go to. The place to hang out was on the street. So, and oldie, and I do remember me and my friend just hanging out on the street doing sex work, and getting to, trying to go to, agencies, GMAC, it was mostly for gay people. Other places, they just mostly for gay, cisgender male. We were totally behind. And then when it comes to education, we're still behind, it's true. But are we growing and we're becoming, and we getting to places that we never did before. And Trans Latina Network, we do on repeat basis. We have a leadership classes and we're creating the new leadership tomorrow. They, they're learning about the history of the transgender community all the way from 1930 to these days, because we got so many heroes and mentors. We can look up to so many people from the past, they made it. And that's something that we need to remember, that we, a community, a TGNC community, if we are more than just those letters. And then the support. Thanks God, evolution has happened in these days. Cristina Herrera was able to create Trans Latinx Network that has hired a lot of people that has been like taking the leadership classes. They're working now, doing outreach, doing counseling, doing a lot of different things for the agency, educating other transgender people, and not just transgender, gender non-conforming, TGNC. So I think these days in New York City, so far we'll be moving in the future. There's so much to do still. I know in other places they're still behind, but it hasn't been easy. We've been fighting for the longest. We've been to rallies. We've been even, at the mayor office outside in the winter. We've been advocating for all the transgender people, even before we had places to go to. It's work that is still, we still got to keep going. We still got to keep advocating. We still got to be knocking on people's doors, even knocking on people's doors like De Blasio and Cuomo, because we need their resources, we need their cash, because our community need resources, especially these days with COVID-19. Oh, thank you. I leave the next one.
¿Puedo empezar a hablar?
Can I speak?
Ok, bueno, no nos
Ok,
vamos a enfocar en el
pues no
pasado,
me voy a
estamos
enfocarme en el... I'm not
tratando
going to
de
focus on the
enfocarnos en
past
el
because I'm
futuro.
trying to focus on the future.
Bueno, como dice Nicole,
And as Nicole said,
hoy en día hay
today
muchos apoyos
there's a lot of support,
y nosotras que vivimos en
and
la ciudad de
we
Nueva York o en el área
live in New York
metropolitana de
City,
Nueva York, pues sabemos
and we
que
know
hay
that
muchas ayudas disponibles para las personas
there's a lot of help and a lot of support
LGBT
for the
y
LGBTQ
transgénero y gender
community
no conforme.
and trans and gender
Pero
nonconforming.
también han
But
sido creadas
also,
más de
I'm not
algunas
going to talk
organizaciones
badly about some
que
organizations,
si a
but
cómo se reparte ese dinero, si las
that money is
organizaciones
distributed
que
if
existen
the
en Nueva York
with the organizations that exist in New York
administran
City,
dinero y no
they
lo reparten
they have some
efectivamente
money and
para
they
la
don't
comunidad,
necessarily
entonces
distribute
el
it
dinero no
to the
conforme.
TGNC
Yo
community.
creo que
And I think that,
si estamos en un estado donde
and if
son
we're in a
buenos con
state
nosotros,
that
tocamos
they're
bajito,
good with
pues yo creo
us,
que hay que repartir
I think they need to distribute the abundance with a equitable way. Some organizations receive money from the government, from the state, and funds that are for education, for transgender women, for whatever it may be, for our community, and they don't give it. They keep that money, or they use it for other projects. So I think that we need to start by being sincere, as my comrade said, that in other states, for instance, Estrella, that she lives in a conservative state, but yes, so we have to support each other. We have to support each other, and the support is the main support system, the the principle, and make sure that organizations understand, the ones that they get governmental funds, to distribute it, especially during times of pandemic that are absolutely needed.
Estrella, would you like to share?
Estrellita, creo que estás en mute.
Estrella, I think you're on mute.
Bueno, parece que la perdimos, tuvo
Well, it
problemas.
looks like that we lost her. She had some technical problems or something.
Okay, well, we'll see if Estrella can join us for this last little bit. We do have a question from um, a, a participant, and they're saying, so they're hearing about a lot of services that are being offered, and services that are going for to the gay and bisexual men. So what can agencies do to get their voice to the government, to the governor? How are people at your organizations and agencies making sure that the CDC is getting money to you all, or to grants? And I think broadly, how can cisgender people or organizations support the trans community, making sure you all are funded?
Well, one of the things that cisgender people can do is advocate for us. I mean, remember, we have a mother, sisters, brothers, we have a families in cisgender. And I think all they can do is to advocate for us, educate other people about us, and spread the knowledge about us that we're here to stay, basically. We're not going anywhere. These days we are so many, the closet became too huge to be inside, and we are there, and we're gonna keep going advocating. But of course, we need to bring the whole community, everyone around.
Ay, disculpa, me desconecté, pero bueno, aquí sigo.
Adelante, Estrella, dale.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Go ahead, Estrella, go ahead.
Adelante, Nicole.
No, you go ahead, Nicole.
No, dale, te toca a ti, por favor, ahora.
No, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Pasando un poco a la pregunta anterior,
So
¿verdad?
responding to the previous question,
Sí, lamentablemente,
yes, unfortunately,
aquí en Georgia no
here in
tenemos
Georgia,
los suficientes
we don't have
recursos
enough resources.
y y yo creo que no,
And I
de
think that,
siguiendo al nuevo, a las nuevas investigaciones
and
que
with the new research that LGBTQ Fund has done,
que de $100 nada más
that
restringiendo
from
la
$100,
trans,
the trans community or the organizations that are led by people by trans folks, we only receive 40 cents, and that is through mutual support or through organizations that are they're giving donations that are supporting and that believe in our work. If we're seeing that that impact
está produciendo
is
en
producing in
organizaciones
different organizations or
proyectos
in different
liderados por
projects
personas trans,
that are led by trans folks,
créeme que nosotras
believe me
estamos
that
haciendo un
we
milagro,
are
porque 40
doing a
centavos
miracle, because 40
no
cents
es nada. Y
is
nosotras
it's nothing.
debemos de
And
pagar
we
nuestras,
should
nuestro
be
alquiler,
we
tenemos
need to
nuestros
pay,
gastos,
we
¿verdad?
have our own expenses, we need to pay our
Y
rent.
es
and
curioso decir
and
que estamos
it's
apoyando
interesting to
por
say that we are
inclusión,
that we're
por
trying to that people are leading through inclusion and through
y
economic
realmente no lo estamos
equity, but in
no lo están
reality
haciendo.
they're not actually doing
Entonces,
it.
volviendo a Georgia,
So going back
Georgia
to Georgia,
no hay, no tenemos ese
we
suficientes
we don't
recursos
we
para
don't have enough
hacer
resources
lo que más
to
quisiéramos,
do what we
¿verdad?
would love to do,
Pero estamos
but
tratando,
we're
¿verdad?
trying,
So,
right? So
tanto, tanto esas, esos apoyos
so
legales
even
como
with those legal
los
support,
recursos,
or
los recursos, perdón,
with
típicos legales
or the legal
o recursos
resources or resources
que tienen en Nueva York
that they have in
o
New
en
York or in
California o en
California
Chicago
or in
o en otros
Chicago
estados,
or in other
no
states.
los hay aquí en
We
Georgia.
don't have them here in Georgia.
Recientemente,
Recently,
la CDC
the CDC
nombró a
named
varios estados
named multiple states
que son
that are
alto riesgo de
high
VIH
risk
y
H,
mencionó nada más
of
donde hay más población
HIV, high risk for VHE, and they
supuestamente,
mentioned more
olvidándose
the
de Georgia,
Latina population, but
de
forgetting
Atlanta,
about Georgia and
donde hay
Atlanta.
un condado
When
específico
in Georgia we have a
Windham
borough
County,
specifically that's Wyndham County
donde hay
that
mucha población
we
latina.
have a lot of Latinas,
Y pues como no hay
and
líderes
because there
comunitarios
aren't community leaders that are
no,
Latine,
no
uh,
hay
or
que tengan
there are
um, esa intersección o esa
we don't
conexión
have folks that have that
como
advocacy or that
determinan
intersection, right?
las
In the
compañías
ways that
y esas
they
organizaciones
identify, they determine, and how organizations determine that
elegibles para
that
hacer
they're
esos
eligible
puestos,
to be in
pues
these
obviamente
positions.
no
So
los
then,
toman en cuenta.
so they don't consider them.
Pero más,
But
y dentro de ahí nosotras
in there,
recibimos las personas trans aquí y
but
no
we
solo en
know
Georgia, también en otros
where the
estados
trans
de la
folks are, and
República.
this is only happens in Georgia, but this
Mencionamos a
happens
North
all in
Carolina,
the South. It has in
Carolina,
South and North
Alabama,
Carolina and Alabama
Tennessee,
and Tennessee,
Mississippi,
in
por mencionar algunos
Mississippi, to
estados,
mention some
¿verdad?
of the states.
Entonces,
So
es hora, es tiempo de cambiar.
it's time to
Y una de
change,
esas
and
estrategias
one of those
que
strategies
cambió por
is
primera vez Georgia
is
azul,
that
ahora
for the first time
vemos,
ever,
¿verdad?
Georgia went
Como
blue. And now we
diferentes
see the
comunidades,
effort, the
vemos
community effort
personas,
from a
muchas
lot of
organizaciones
people, from a
muy
lot of different organizations, from a lot of different local
so,
projects.
y
So,
debemos de
and we
seguir
should
trabajando más en
continue
eso,
working on
¿verdad?
that,
So, y que no nada más sea
and that it's not
Georgia
just
azul entre comillas,
it's not
pero
just
que
a blue
realmente
Georgia, a quote unquote blue
sea
Georgia, but that it
incluya
actually
las diversas
includes
poblaciones,
the diverse
porque
populations, and within those diverse populations, the trans community.
eh, esto también fue un
And this
papel
is
muy
also something
importante,
was an important role
aparte también las personas
that
que donan, ¿verdad?
also
So,
from the
usualmente
people that donate,
nos
right?
vamos
Because
a
usually
referir
we go back to the
organizaciones,
same issue,
proyectos que dicen
organizations,
que son
projects that say that
comunidad
they fight for the
LGBTQ, pero
LGBTQ
excluyen a la
community
comunidad
but
T.
exclude
Esas son las
the
primeras
trans community.
organizaciones
Those are
que
the
son de
first
riesgo
organizations that
y
benefit,
realmente
and in
no están
reality
haciendo el trabajo
they're not doing the
y
work.
a
And for us, it weighs down on us because we do the referrals. And the first ones that go to those agencies and ask them, do you speak English? And they say, and in and the same um the same receptionists make fun of you because you don't speak English, and or they tell you indirectly, I don't know why you come to this country if you don't speak English. The first thing you need to do is speak English. And how, with what confidence are we gonna send our comrades to go get any kind of tests, or after getting their detection tests and they come out positive, they're not going to feel confident. And so the stigma has been a main factor that has threatened has threatened our community. And so therefore we need to get completely eliminate that stigma and continuing to support organizations that collaborate, or organizations that are led by us, by trans folks. There's a lot of girls who have this potential, who have the strength, but in reality, they need to educate themselves. They need to educate themselves more, and they need to be more responsible with themselves and with what they're looking for, because forming an organization is not going to be from night to day. It's not going to be from one day to the next. And we have a there's a we have a lot of leadership within ourselves, within our group, and the empowerment the empowerment between each other, between us. Thank you.
Thank you, Estrella. I think that was a very powerful call to action for everyone watching and listening. Nicole and Leslie, do you have any closing words for our participants listening in?
Yeah, I just want to say, well, I agree with Estrella. Education is the key. That's the only thing we're gonna become better. We're gonna be able to achieve places in this time in age. The only thing we can do is just educate ourselves. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, but you need to stop with the idea that you're gonna be beautiful forever. Please, let's finish high school. Let's get a GD. Education is the key. La educación es todo lo que nos va a llevar a un lugar lejos en este país.
Education is everything. It's what's going to take you far in any place. Education.
Thank you. That's it.
Bueno, ya por último,
Well, I finally want to say that we also have to be very realistic with ourselves and with our environment. The situation regarding our gender, people are not ready for us. And as Estrella and Nicole said, I think that what we're doing in our co-op is empower and educate. That when you educate yourself, your way of thinking changes completely. When you know, when you're a worker, when you study something and something in your brain changes, and you realize that what you were doing before, it does no longer works for you, or you no longer feel comfortable with that. And so I think we need to focus and provide support to the community, giving them scholarships to study and preparing them, training them. And as the Estrella has said, we identify, because there's a lot of people who have potential, because sometimes we have potential, but we might not have the language. So we need to support them. And we know that there's other folks, that if other folks can help us or can help you, we need to connect them and support them. And that's how we're going to start. That's going to be our first step, and we're going to accomplish it, not immediately, but we're going to be able to accomplish all the changes that we need for everything.
Yes, thank you so much. You all shared some really powerful strategies and approaches to this work. I think at the end of the day, for people looking to include transgender folks in their work, they need to employ trans folks. They need to give money to trans folks. They need to say, like you all said, we're not the problem, we're the solution. So if you have questions, let us lead the work, right? So thank you all for all that you shared. I know there was another question around outreach. We put the panelists' information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to them or to us. We have one more session for tomorrow at 3:30 around celebration, because we can't forget how much we also have to celebrate in our community. You know, we have not many resources, sometimes the last people to receive the resources and the money, but look at all that you've created. And I think that's a testament to your skills, to your talent, and to your wisdom. So we thank you all for everything you do, all the love and power you invest in our community. And the entire community is better because of people like you all and the work you do. So thank you again. It was really beautiful to share this space with you. And folks listening in, for cisgender folks, these are the people you need to listen to. These are the people you need to be following. So make sure to continue to support this work year round. So thank you again to our panelists, for the people watching, and to our interpreter. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day.
Igualmente, gracias.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, thank you.
See you tomorrow in the next meeting.
Wonderful, wonderful. 3:30 tomorrow, celebration. And you have art.
Bye, Nicole. Bye,
Bye, Leslie. Bye, Joaquin.
Bye,
Bye,
Joaquin.
Estrella.
Bye,
Bye, everyone. Adios a todos.
Appreciate y'all so much.
We'll meet again.
Virtually and one day in person.
Oh, yeah, right. What did they say? Like that? Yeah. A little hard. Yeah. Adios, Estrella. Te portas mal.
Bye, Estrella. Be bad.
¿Sigue Facebook?
Sí, Estrella, sí, Estrella, sigue con tu trabajo, no te...
Estrella, continue with your work.
Vamos a apoyar todo
Don't lose steam, and we're going to support, all the community is going to support you. Together, we're all going to support each other. Are we still on Facebook Live or not anymore? I think so. We're still. And I'm going to try to send you a message on Facebook so we can try to connect you with some donations. Thank you to everyone. And here we are in the fight. Okay, bye. And everybody be bad. Have a good day. Have a good day. Bye.